Hello, hello, hello. Today is Thursday, July 31st. It's the end of the month, and since it's Thursday and it's noon, I am Dr. Tanji, and I'm excited to be back with you for another session of Let's Talk Power Live, where we talk about power and education in very real and concrete ways. I am Dr. Tanji. I am your host. I am the president. No, I'm not. I'm the CEO, and I am the principal consultant of Liaison Educational Powers. I've missed you. I've been gone for 2 weeks, not on purpose. 1 week I was traveling, and 1 week I had some technical issues where I was in the middle of a show with you talking, and my computer was dying. I had some really weird tech issues, but I'm back and I'm excited. And you know what? It taught me a lesson. Sometimes that means you're supposed to take a break. I believe in consistency, but I guess it wasn't meant to be those 2 weeks. I hope you had a great couple of weeks, and I'm going to share with you what I've been doing. I just got back from Accra, Ghana. It's been a week. I've been home exactly 1 week, and I was there last year, and it was a great time. So later on in our time together, I'm going to share with you about my trip there and what we did. So, who are we? I told you I am Dr. Tanji. I tell you every week who we are. We are liaison educational partners. We sit at the intersection of curriculum, instruction, and culture. We believe every student deserves a leader and a teacher equipped with the mindset, tool sets, and skill set to ensure that they get an excellent education. And we look at all of these through the lens of power. People ask me all the time, why do you talk about power? I talk about power because power is a real thing. It exists and it matters in the world. It is the smog in the air. Beverly Tatum said that power is the smog in the air of every relationship. And in education, excuse me one second, something happened with my computer. What Beverly Tatum said is that power is the smog in the air of every relationship. It is a real thing. And in education, we tend to talk about it naming power dynamics. But what we don't do is we don't talk about it in a way to operationalize it through naming specifically and talking about how to disrupt the harmful ways in which the use of power by adults affords or constrains students access to the excellent education they deserve. So that is why I talk about power, and I base it all on my book, Understanding Your Instructional Power, which is what I ask you every week. Do you have your copy? This is a QR code to allow you to get the copy. And there is the link for you to order it from Amazon. We would love for you to order from either Amazon, Bookshop, or wherever you buy your materials. If you order from Amazon, would love to invite you to please leave us a review. We want as many people as possible to understand their instructional power so students continue to get an excellent education. And while we're talking about leaving reviews, I'm going to ask you to do a couple of things. Number one, I'm going to ask you to like. I'm going to ask you to share, and I'm going to ask you to subscribe and the notifications. We want to make sure that you know every time Let's Talk Power Live is going live, and that way it can connect you to what we're doing here. So, do you have your copy? Carol Jago, who was the past president of NCTE, had this to say about the book. Tanji Reed Marshall demonstrates how teachers actually possess tremendous power to influence the trajectory of their students' learning, for better or for worse. We want it for better. You're going to use power. You've got it. We want to make sure that you use it for the right thing. Go ahead and get your copy of the book. And so I want to always ground us in how I define instructional power, along with people asking me why I talk about it. They ask me what it is. And here is what it is. It can be understood as an educator. And for me, when I say educator, I mean a person who leads a state, a district, or a building, or a classroom. It is that educators' use of their state, district and building ascribed job-related authority to constrain or afford a student's access to learning. So, and there are a lot of ways where educators afford or constrain a student's access to learning. That is this thing called instructional power. And because it says instructional, there are times when leaders don't think it applies to them. And what will I say to that? Of course, it applies to you. If you're a leader, you are an instructional leader, you have power, you use it. And we talk about how the use of power across a lot of levels really impacts the quality and culture of a learning environment. So go ahead, get your book, and let's be in conversation with one another. Well, I got something else excited to talk about. Met this gentleman when I was in Accra last year, Kwame. He does a wonderful podcast, and he invited me to be on his show. It's called Identity Talk, and we talk a lot about who we are as educators and staying true to the teacher that's inside me. I always name myself as a teacher. I was a teacher in a classroom. I help leaders learn. I help coaches learn, and I help teachers learn. And so I'm always a teacher. So it was a delight to take part in this particular episode. It is coming out today. So please be on the lookout for it and enjoy it and share it. That's what we got going on so far. What else is going on in the world? Oh, my memories. This is a great shot. So my last day in Ghana, I had the wonderful opportunity to visit a location called Nature's Sprout Academy. It is a school dedicated to supporting children who are neurodivergent. And this is one of the tools, one of the toys, one of the outdoor activities that young people get to play on. And they get to learn about their balance. They get to be in community with their friends. And me and these two wonderful ladies had the wonderful opportunity, the fantastic time to be on this merry-go-round. And as you can see, it was pure joy. We had so much fun. That particular site really helped me. It helped anchor my knowledge base about what it means to be neurodivergent and how really important environment is. In this particular site, it is a clean site. And what that means is there are no shoes allowed inside classrooms. So when we went inside to visit classrooms, we had to take our shoes off. We also learned the power of music. I've always known that music is really important. And right now I'm thinking about my colleague, Ashley Cuthbertson, who runs a music and education consultancy, which is great work. The power of music to help with learning and to help with system control was really important to understand here as well. And what I also learned in this site is a lot of times we're taught that primary colors are important from a focusing tool. In this particular environment, all of the colors, I don't want to call them muted or pastels, but they're warm colors. And they create a very peaceful environment. The last most important element we were learning about that the Nature Sprout Academy does is they have a biomedical team on site. And they talk about how they help families really understand the importance of a clean diet, no processed food or very heavily reduced processed food, high in vegetables, high in fruits, really making sure that the young people get the right amount of rest. And one of the findings that they learned was that they had children who were nonverbal. And by changing their diet, they saw significant increases in children's response, children's attention, children's verbal skills. It was just completely fascinating. I am not a doctor on that side, but just hearing about the importance of diet and its impact on learning is critical. So we had a great time there. The other thing I got to do while I was there is we went to the W.E.B. Du Bois Center. They call it a center. It was actually the house where he lived while he was in Ghana. If you don't know, Dr. DeBose decided to become a Ghanaian citizen. He was there in the late 1900s. He died there when he was 95. He was commissioned to write African history because Kwame Nkrumah wanted to make sure that African history was written by a person who was committed to telling an African-centered story. We viewed his house, and I got to donate two of my books to their library. So two of Understanding Your Instructional Power are going to be available for readers and leaders across whoever decides to come in there. So that was a real treat for me to be there. While I was there, also learn the power of context. We have a lot going on in the world. A lot of it is unfortunate. A lot of it is angering. A lot of it is really harmful to the very people we say we care about. That is not only true in the States. We have the same context everywhere. My session was on creating the context for student-centered learning. As a leader, you create the context that either allows your educators who lead classrooms to foster student-centered learning, or you do not. There's a lot of conversation about student-centered learning and student voice. What I have found both there while I was in Accra and while I'm here in the States is that as a leader, lots of conversations go on, but there's very little actionable planning to ensure that everybody in the learning environment understands student agency and student voice in the same way, and that it's going to be evidenced in the environment in the same way. And so what my session really was about was, one, highlighting the need for there to be strategic, actionable, explicit planning and professional development around student agency, what it is not, and how to foster it in a learning environment. So those are my memories. That's what we talked about while we were there in Ghana. And I also had the privilege of moderating a panel with a Nigerian and two Ghanaian educators who are doing fantastic work with STEM, teacher development, and student engagement. Really great time there. I'm looking forward to going back. I don't know if it's going to be next year, but whenever it is, I am going to be back there. So where have we been? Over these last few weeks, we have talked a lot about summer and how the summer slide really is not just young people sliding in their reading or math skills. There is an adult slide, an adult educator slide, because we are not engaged in the regular practice of teaching, right? We're not in the day-to-day workings of it. And sometimes we slide in our own skills. I can admit to that. When I would go back to school, I would feel a little bit rusty. I'd feel a little bit worn out. I'd feel a little bit tired, and my senses were not as sharp. My reactions were not as thoughtful. I was hitting my default button. And so really wanted to bring this idea up about where we've been over these last few weeks. So we talked about that the summer slide is yours too. We also talked about the power moves that matter. What kind of power moves are really important to think through even over the summer? And we leaned into it's about reflecting, and it's about really giving yourself some time to step away. And that's okay. Step back. Give yourself some time to free your mind up so that when you come back, you're refreshed and ready. And then when we were back, we were talking about planning with power. Planning with power really is about making sure you're planning with your students in mind. It's not about the pressure. It really is about taking time to learn, taking time to plan with actionable ideas to really support your students. And in the planning, one thing I didn't talk about, I'm talking about now, is in the planning, Sometimes that planning is about not having it all itemized yet. And I understand we all have curricula. We all have to be in the mode of doing what our curricula asks us to do. But even in that, I'm going to push and challenge you as we think about getting ready to go back. I can't even believe it. We're headed back. Want to ask you, want to push and challenge you to leave space in your planning. Don't plan the whole thing out. Part of student agency development is making sure there's actual space for it. A lot of times we don't leave space for that, and student agency just becomes something in the moment. If students are to become agentic beings ready for the world outside of school, then we have to be intentional in our planning for it. So as you are planning, plan for space to be in available times when you can. Be intentional about making space for student agency and to develop it carefully and real critical ways where students are going to be able to join you and be a partner in their learning. That was my charge. Well, this week, that's today, we're going to talk about power, of course, about the pause, and about practice. Summertime is one of my favorite times. I love hot weather and I am really enjoying, I know it's like a heat wave, but I'm actually enjoying it. I get to be outside more. I do a lot of things. But in the power to pause though, and I'm reflecting now on having missed time doing our sessions together. The power in that really is allowing your brain to step back and take time to do what it needs to do. We hear a lot now these days about rest. Your brain actually doesn't rest. At night, when you're sleeping, your brain is working. It is making sense of all that you've been through, all that you've done in the day, all that's on your mind, all that's on your plate. When you give yourself time to pause, you allow the brain to do the job it needs to do, to keep what you need and get rid of what you don't, and to make sense of what's going on around you. That's the power in the pause. That was kind of the pause, I guess, I kind of took by accident, on purpose, maybe. I don't know. But that's really what this power and pause and practice is all about. So I want to go do a couple of things. Really thinking about this planned power, right? Moves that matter, agency building. You know, power isn't found in reaction, it is designed. You must design for it. It's really important to design for power. One, because we have in our systems default buttons. And if you're not keyed in, you've heard me say this before, if you're not keyed into your own default buttons, you're going to make mistakes. And sometimes those mistakes will harm children. And so want to lean into this idea that when we're talking about planned power moves and agency building, want to really bring that back to you to understand that you really have got to plan power into your routines and be intentional about it. Next thing I want to talk about is planning for this pressure cooker. A lot of times we're in this pressure cooker. It's a nasty cycle where we really look at, you know, you got to be finished, you got to be on the wheel, the hamster wheel, going around and around and around. Well, I want to help you disrupt that, right? That when we think about planning, particularly when our systems are revving back up for coming into the school year. One of the things that we feel like is that our plans have got to all be finished by Sunday night. And sometimes they do. I was on that too. Sometimes our plans have to be done Sunday because they got to be turned in. Someone's going to be looking at them. They must be aligned to the pacing guide, and they must always, you know, fit a certain mode. I had pacing guides. I developed pacing guides, but I want you to really step back for a moment and allow yourself to come out of that pressure cooker. And take the pause right now before your system starts flooding the cortisol through it and you begin to resent having to go back. I want you excited to go back. Summer is winding down. And then for some people, school starts in another 2 weeks. I have nephews that start in another 2 weeks. I think my grandson starts about 3 weeks from now. So we really want you to know what the pressure cooker feels like. We don't want you leaning into that. We want you leaning into something different. We want you to activate your instructional power in a way of what your planning could actually be, right? Really thinking about, what do your students need? But you're not going to know that right away. You won't even know that in the first week of school. It's going to take some time to know that. I want you reflecting about your professional judgment and your purpose, really thinking critically. And I took a pause right there because I want my words to be right. I want you to really reflect on your professional judgment and your purpose. When we go back, we're coming off a time where our brains are not keyed into the day-to-day of school. And sometimes our judgment is off. Mine was off sometimes. And I had to really be intentional about dialing back in. And you're going to have to dial back in and reconnect with your purpose of, why are you there? Why are you in this wonderfully challenging but significant profession to do the thing we call teaching, to help kids that aren't yours learn things? That's the power in education that we're talking about. And then want you designing from a place of power and not fear. What does that mean? That means that you are internalizing your content. You know your content. You know what the curriculum is, right? And you are designing learning intentionally from a place of power, not from that place of, someone's going to come and get me. Someone is going to be evaluating me. Someone's going to be judging me. I want you to dispel those myths. Yes, you're going to be evaluated. Evaluation happens all the time. Evaluation happens in every profession. Teaching is no different. It happens in every industry. People are evaluated. Numbers matter. People are looking at the way you do your work. All of it matters. But we want you, and I want you, to really do your design for learning from a place of power and ownership. That happens when you are deeply connected to your content, to your curriculum, and to your students. That's that. So let's go into this power, this pause, and this practice. I want to give you 3 ways to think through this, right? So I want to ask you a question. Which direction are your beliefs and practices going into? Which directions did they go into this past year? Were they moving away from each other? And if they were, that actually is a signal. When your stated beliefs, but your practices seem to be moving in opposite directions, that is a signal that you might need to pause, right? Pause on a weekend and step out of your role of a teacher. Put your work away. Don't do any work over the weekend and really get realigned, right? We have time. We talk a lot about teacher burnout. Teachers are, when I say, in this one, I mean teachers at the classroom level, educators at the classroom level are really experiencing a lot of stress. There's a lot more on our plate. And sometimes our beliefs and our practices go in opposite directions. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It means you need to stop for a moment, take a breath, step out of the day-to-day for a moment in your mind, give yourself some space to reflect, give your some space to reconnect with who you are and why you are doing this job. Understand why some of those triggers are. We're going to talk about that in a moment. But what is causing the beliefs and practices to go in the opposite direction? Other question is, how do we get the beliefs and practices back together? How do we get them coming back together? We got to take those pauses. We have to ask ourselves some critical questions about our why. We have to ask ourselves some critical questions about how we are understanding our instructional power, how we are using it. Are we creating environments that are disenfranchising? That happens when you're going in the opposite direction, when you are creating disenfranchisement or you're power protecting. And then when they're coming back together, you are moving in that space of agency development and empowerment. And so, what is going to be necessary to help you move more explicitly towards agency development and power, not power protecting, but power growth for the student and for yourself? What is necessary? There's some critical things you want to do. Number one, you're going to have to name your slide. What is the slide? Is it your planning? Is it your purpose? Is it your energy? Is it your expectation? Are your expectations shifting? Is your energy waning? Even as you think about going back, even as you think about, wrapping up the summer, are you at a low energy space or you're a high energy space? Where's your energy? Name your slide right now, right? Those adults on slide, name your slide. The next thing I want you to do, I want you to name your triggers. You have them. Is it the pressure? Is it burnout? Is it uncertainty? Are you disconnected? What is at the root of these? All of these right here, these are symptoms of your triggers. Want you to be clear about naming your triggers. Is it something in your belief system? Is it something in your expectation? What are those triggers that might be causing your beliefs and your practices to be moving away from each other as opposed to being in alignment with each other? And then the next thing I want you to do is I want you to reconnect to your power. Return to what you know is true about your purpose, about your students, and about your values. Take some time over the next few weeks to really think through, what are my values? Have my values shifted? You don't know about your students right now, but what do you know to be true about all students generally, about young people generally? And then reconnect to your purpose. As we get ready to go back, I want you to really take some time and reconnect to your purpose about being this person whose job it is to help a young person learn some things, and learn how to do things. Those are your three. Really look at what is your slide, what's causing your sliding. Maybe you need to hone up on some content. Maybe you need to re-up your content, deepen your content knowledge about something, learn something new. Avoid the slide, learn something new. But name your triggers. What might be causing some disruption? But then I want you to reconnect to your power. And then step 4, I want you to make a power move. Repair it, right? Make a repair move. Move from what you must do to what is meaningful to you. We as educators do a lot of what we have to do, right? We must do. In the next few weeks, as you wind down summer, but ramp mentally up for school, I want you to really focus on some things that are meaningful to you. What's meaningful to you as an educator? Make that repair move. That's your power move for this week. Really lean into what are some meaningful ideas, meaningful tips, meaningful structures, meaningful practices. What's meaningful to you? I want you to fold in, lean into that. So let's recap. What did we do? Oh, maybe we're not going to recap. I think we all. What is IP1? I'm going to go back. Yeah. Well, a couple of things I want you to talk about. I do want to talk about Let's Talk Power Live again. It's coming back next week. But I want to recap this week, right? That practice is not performance, right? And that alignment is a signal about maybe you need to do some other things. And then I want you to own your slide. And I want that summer is not about to end. It's about sharpening your why. And I do want to go back and I want to talk about Instructional Power 101. We've been talking about, let me see if I can get a banner up. Here it is. Instructional Power 101. We've been talking a lot about it. It is on demand. It is at your own pace. It is learning about instructional power in a way that is concrete and is going to shift the way you begin the year. It is going to help you really think critically about your relationships with your students and your practices. And that is how you can get into it, how you can learn about it. We want you to strengthen your instructional practices and have the kind of learning environment you have envisioned for yourself and for your students. Instructional Power 101 is the tool that's going to get you there. What happens when you walk away? You walk away knowing who you are in a way that is deeper and stronger. And it gives you the tools to disrupt the automatic responses to students' behaviors that sometimes are negative triggers for you. So go ahead and explore Instructional Power 101. I've given you our recap for this week. Looking ahead, we're going to start our back to school series next week. I have lots of ideas planned to help us get back on track, and something new. We're going to have guests starting to join us in a few weeks. We're going to have some guests join us to talk about their perspective on power in education. So go ahead, get your copy of the book. Go ahead and get Instructional Power 101. And thank you, everybody, for your patience over the last 2 weeks. And welcome back to Let's Talk Power Live. I will see you next week.